A black liquid was evenly sprayed across the astronaut's body. Within seconds, it hardened, transforming into a high-tech protective material. Armor plates were then installed over his joints, and with the addition of a helmet, the lightweight emergency spacesuit would be complete. But before the helmet could even form, Jess, an astronaut, was horrified to see his pod suddenly ejected into space. He turned back just in time to witness the main ship struck by a meteor, exploding violently. That impact had triggered the emergency release, sending all the crew pods flying into the void. Most of them were destroyed in the chaos, but a few, like Jess's, managed to stay intact and plummet toward a nearby planet. The descent was too fast, and without a helmet, Jess began to lose pressure. Just as he was about to pass out, the pod's AI, Jarvis, initiated the helmet's creation. When the visor finally sealed, Jess took a desperate breath. He was alive. But before he could relax, Jarvis reported that the pod's exterior temperature had exceeded safe limits due to the rapid descent. Outside, other pods were exploding one after another, and Jess felt his heart tighten all over again. Fortunately, the next moment the pod entered the planet's atmosphere, and the extreme cold of the world below quickly brought the temperature back to normal. However, the same cold caused the fuel system to malfunction, leaving the pod powerless. It plummeted straight toward the planet's surface. By sheer luck, the pod's reinforced shell saved Jess from injury. When he came to, he immediately opened communications, trying to reach any surviving crew members, but there was no response. Then Jarvis detected a crack forming beneath the pod and warned Jess to evacuate. But just as he climbed out, the ground gave way. The pod tilted violently, and Jess fell back inside. Worse yet, the edge of the ship tore a hole in his suit, and oxygen began leaking rapidly. On a planet dominated by carbon dioxide, oxygen was the only lifeline. Terrified, Jess sealed the tear with liquid adhesive. Even so, his suit's oxygen reserves dropped to just 40%. He crawled out of the pod, praying the main ship had somehow survived the meteor strike and would come for him. But a second later, a ball of fire streaked across the sky. It was the main ship, crashing down in the distance. Jess stared in disbelief as the last flicker of hope died inside him. Then, faint lights glimmered far off in the gray landscape. Maybe they were distress signals from other survivors. Hope reignited, Jess started walking toward them. Along the way, he kept trying to call for help over the radio, but not a single voice answered. The gloomy sky and ash-colored ground pressed heavily on his chest. After climbing over several rocky ridges, Jess finally reached the source of the lights. There were fragments of the main ship scattered everywhere, and beside them, a survival pod. Jess ran to it immediately. The pod was empty, but the oxygen pack was still there. He reached for it, only to freeze when he noticed the crew member inside. Dead, he turned away, unable to look directly at the body. It was the first corpse he had ever seen, and the urge to vomit surged up his throat. But if he threw up inside the suit, he'd be finished. He swallowed it back down, forcing himself to stay calm. Then he checked the oxygen pack, but the back of it was damaged, completely unusable. When his own oxygen ran out, that would be the end. Still, Jess refused to give up. He decided to head toward the other lights in the distance, hoping for a miracle. What he didn't know was that on the dead crew member's pod, 2 bloody claw marks were carved deep into the metal.